That's the rhetoric that's going on here. And Senator Henry Cabot Lodge stated that the McKinley administration was compelled to violate the neutrality of those islands, that protests from foreign representatives had already been received and complications with other powers were threatened, that the annexation or some action in regard to those islands had become a military necessity. So they're not listening to the protests and the people of Hawaii. They're saying, we're just going to take it because we need it. And Senator John Morgan is going to explain the joint resolution, because the joint resolution was never intended to have any effect beyond America's borders, because the joint resolution of America can't affect Mexico, right? Can't affect Canada. They knew that back then. What they said was, the joint resolution is going to be the consent given by the House and the Senate to authorize the President to occupy Hawaii. That's what the joint resolution was all about. The joint resolution was then signed by McKinley on July 7, 1898, which enabled him to occupy Hawaii during the war. And on August 12th, Hawaii is occupied physically, with formal ceremonies taking place at Iolani Palace, where the Hawaiian flag was lowered and the American flag risen. And all the Hawaiian subjects that signed those petitions protested and boycotted it. Yeah? But they also knew the military starting to come in. Now, you don't want to mess with the U.S. military. Don't give them a reason to shoot you. That's why the Queen, her famous words were, "Onipa'a," stand firm, hold your ground, don't get excited. It's a very tense situation. Now, the limitation of U.S. congressional law, this is Washington, D.C., where they pass joint resolutions and acts, bills that become acts. Well, you have borders. American laws cannot go beyond those borders. Then how can a joint resolution annex Hawaii? Well, the joint resolution didn't annex Hawaii. The joint resolution just authorized the President to occupy Hawaii. Okay? That's really all it did. It didn't. Has anybody seen the sovereignty get transferred yet?
No.
No. Now here we have, to give some context, we're almost coming to a close, we're going to introduce the play. Just to give you some context, this is the United States, this is Hawaii, separate sovereign states. That's the external sovereignty. When in the United States, you have inherent sovereignty where Congress passes laws. Well, in 1898, Congress passed the Joint Resolution of Annexation. That law has no effect beyond the borders of the United States. Followed by, in 1900, a Territorial Act. The Congress creates a government for the territory of Hawaii. And McKinley then appoints Sanford Dole as the governor. Do you guys see the irony in that? That's like New York. The governor of New York is appointed by the president. They're going to appoint John Gotti. He's wearing a suit. He looks cool, but you know his background. If you look, how is it that this president appoints Sanford Dole as the governor, but yet the president before him who did the investigation said he was a traitor? He's still a traitor, but he's seeking protection under President McKinley. So he's the governor of the territory of Hawaii. Then you got the Hawaiian Homes Act, 1921. That is where the word Hawaiian becomes ethnic, 50% blood quantum being used in that law. And then you have the Hawaiian Statehood Act, where it became a state of the Union, but again, that's just an American law. Office of Foreign Affairs created, that's another American law. Apology resolution. The United States passed a law apologizing for the overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom in 1993. They actually apologized, turned it into law. But it's a joint resolution. No different than the joint resolution of annexation. It's still an internal law of the United States. And if you read that apology law, boy, there's some bad, totally off-base terms that you can run a truck through legally. I covered that in my law journal article. And the Akako Bill, seeking Native Hawaiians to be recognized as a Native American tribe within the United States territory. The problem is, has anybody seen the transfer of Hawaii sovereignty? No. Then you have Hawaii, its inherent sovereignty, Hawaii, a constitutional monarch in 1840, organic acts organizing the executive and judiciary, a criminal code adopted by the Hawaiian legislature, amendment to the Hawaiian Constitution, a civil code adopted by the legislature, another amendment to the Constitution, and the compiled laws of 1884. These are Hawaiian laws, and these are American laws. They're separated by international law. So until there is a bridge here called a treaty, these laws stay here, these laws stay there. Okay? Now, since the takeover, you have a major military buildup of Hawaii, and we all know, living in Hawaii, in local terms, we call it choke military. Yeah, choke. I had no problem serving in the military. Remember, I was in the field artillery. Yeah, I grew up. Fought the Rusi, a lot of military. That was just a given. Now with this history though, I'm like, wow, Hawaii's occupied. That's evidence of occupation. And I started to realize I was in the wrong army, so I resigned my commission. I got out after 10 years. Good thing, that was before Iraq blew up. I love being in the military. Thanks for all the American taxpayers' money. I could travel all over. I was just in the wrong army. I was a good mercenary though. What a shift, yeah, in the paradigm. Now, what I'm sharing with you as far as Hawaii's history has not been taught. But we all suffered from that. There was a revisionist history. We were led to believe something that wasn't true. And that's not my opinion. That's why it's very important at the University of Hawaii, PhDs are actually diving headfirst into this information, and it's amazing what's all there. It's amazing. It's like it was always there, but nobody understood it. Now here's the propaganda that allowed it to continue. You know, you folks always talk about ceded lands. You always hear of ceded lands, ceded lands. Where's the Treaty of Cession though? But everybody's talking about ceded lands. It's implying there was a treaty. Well, did you know the joint resolution back in 1898 was actually used like it was a treaty? That was the sleight of hand. See, that's like David Copperfield making Diamond Head disappear. All he did was adjust everybody to look at the ocean. Diamond Head's still there. It's a sleight of hand. They used the joint resolution as if it was a treaty, and Sanford Dole was part of that propaganda. Now, how deep that propaganda is on how real a treaty is, anybody here from McKinley High School? McKinley High School, we got a tiger here. Okay, McKinley alone. What's in William McKinley's hand right here, that document right there? He's the father of annexation. Did you folks learn that? How's this? Here's the history of this statute. See, McKinley High School used to be called Honolulu High School. Okay? It was changed in the early 1900s by the territorial government to call it McKinley High School, the father of annexation. And Sanford Dole, the traitor, the criminal. Now remember, when I say Sanford Dole, I'm not saying his whole family, right? Like Henry Dole. He's good, you know. Or even Sanford Dole's cousins, they're fine. It's just he's the criminal. Okay? Well, this criminal, who's a former justice on the Hawaiian Kingdom Supreme Court, is no donkey. He understands law. He understands the limitation of a joint resolution. He knows what is a treaty. He knows that a joint resolution cannot annex nothing, and he cannot put that in this document here that signifies and celebrates annexation. So what he's going to have to do is, logic tells you, he's got to put a treaty there, right? Facade. Well, Sanford Dole is going to dedicate this statute, 1911. I had a friend of mine go to McKinley High School, and I said, hey, I know what's written in that document, but you got to climb up. So my friend actually climbed up there, and he took a picture. And that's the document he's holding called the annexation document. And this is what is inscribed in that document. Treaty of annexation. There's no treaty. That was a sleight of hand. And you know what? The propaganda worked because everybody here is saying ceded lands. Ceded lands comes from a treaty of cession. But if you look at Hawaii's history books, go back and look at all the history books. They refer to the joint resolution as if it's a treaty. But it's not. And the treaty was killed. So the theory of Hawaiian sovereignty and governance, at this point, can you understand why I cannot find, nor can any legal scholar find, a treaty? Which means that Hawaii's sovereignty is still intact. It never left. We were led to believe something that's not true. So sovereignty in Hawaii, 1843, recognized, okay, and then exercised by Hawaiian Kingdom government. That Hawaiian Kingdom government illegally overthrown in 1893, that doesn't mean Hawaii's sovereignty was overthrown. It's like an Iraqi situation. Hawaii's still a country, since we didn't know it. Yeah. So without a treaty, the United States cannot claim to have sovereignty over Hawaii. United States laws can only affect U.S. territory. All those laws. And the Hawaiian Kingdom continues to exist as a sovereign state under international law. It's nothing to do with the sovereignty movement you see today, with people claiming to be queen, king, prime ministers. We're talking about a sovereign state without a government.